All right, so we are in session one of ministry coaching. And the idea of coaching is that people will come to you if you're a leader, and coaching helps you use a process to get people from where they are to where God wants them to be. And so we're going to be teaching a process, and it really involves three basic elements. And so we'll go over that today. And with no further ado, I'll pull up the documents, pull up a share, and we'll get right into it. Looking for my notes. There we are. All right, so I'm going to read over some notes. Someone just joined us, but oh, Sharon. Sharon. Yay, Sharon's here. All right. So some of these documents will be on the pastormikethompson.org second ADP button, and it's listed as ministry coaching, I believe. And let me just see the screen sharing layout here. Here we go. There. Now I can see. All right, so today we're going to cover three basic things and then kind of give an overview of the program and what you're getting into. The first one is you're standing as a coach or leader and modeling behavior. Now, modeling behavior is something we talk a lot about in our leadership classes. This is a sidetrack, but it'll be a worthwhile sidetrack, I hope. There's a couple different models or approaches to leadership. There's transformational leadership, which is visionary leadership, where you cast a compelling vision of the future. And that vision has to be something, at least in the church or ministry, that's biblical, that God will bless, and that you persuade people that with God's help, you can achieve this vision. And it's a God-sized vision. That's one kind of leadership and one model. The other is servant leadership. And this is what we're going to touch on a little bit today. It crosses over. Servant leadership is the idea that you serve the people that you lead, and you model for them the kind of attitude and the kind of behavior that you want them to emulate. So when Paul says, "Follow me as I follow Christ," people could copy and paste his behavior into their own life, because originally it came from Christ. It's seen in Paul, and he says, "Follow me as I follow Christ." I'm modeling for you how to live the Christian life, right? Well, what does that servant leadership start with? It starts with modeling behavior. And so have you ever had a boss or someone who was going to mentor you that rattled off advice, but you could tell they maybe weren't that concerned for you or knew you as a person? What was that like?
Unaffected. But I wasn't important. They didn't hear a thing I said. They're just thinking about the next thing they want to say before I
Yeah.
get the next thing out of my mouth, because
They're loading up stuff to say, and they're not taking into consideration your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas. Yeah.
I feel like
Dismiss
every
it.
day.
Yeah.
dismiss.
Dismissive. Any other thoughts on that?
I'm just trying to think back. I think I had that happen, but I wasn't aware that they didn't really care. I latched
Yeah.
on to everything they said and was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is truth.
Mhm.
And like looking back, like I was really, really vulnerable. So maybe it doesn't, maybe it's not overly applicable, but
It's pretty applicable. So, one of the things we look for, in a Christian leader is someone who displays the fruit of the Spirit. And we can actually look that up and check it out. And, whether they're leading as a servant leader or whether they're getting the old school term is their jollies from shoving people around. Are they collaborative in any way? Do they consider the actual needs of the people they're serving, or do they just have a plan and they're forcing it, they're going for it, and not considering the actual needs of the people that they lead? If you're a servant leader, then you would say, what are the needs of those I'm here to serve? It's a different mindset. Now, why are we bringing it up here? Because coaching is, there's a differentiation between the coach and the person being coached. There's someone who's being vulnerable and saying, hey, help me get to this next place. And then you're taking a leadership role by default. It's not something you gloat about, think about, but you're helping to lead them somewhere that God wants them to be. So if we take the approach of servant leadership, then we will really try to clue into the best way that we can serve them as we interact with them. It's a different thing, especially in coaching and Christian counseling. People really won't give you the real stuff of what's going on unless they trust that you care about them and won't throw them away if they share some hard things. How does that land with you guys? Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So,
I mean, ultimately, nobody wants to just have somebody boss them around and have no clue on what their cares or concerns are.
yeah,
You know, if you're able to interact with them and help them understand that you hear and you validate what they're saying, it makes it more of an open relationship.
an open relationship. Yep.
I mean, it's kind of what I learned in the discipleship essentials class. A lot of that stuff is, goes through how to communicate, how to be a good listener, and but also be assertive in your,
Yeah.
how would you say it? Be assertive in your word, but still, let them know that their point is valid.
Yeah. So we'll really build on some of the things that you have already learned in class.
We already, like, I've noticed so many things that have kind of come up and like, hey, I've already got a little touch of that.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
So,
Validating, no, if they're talking out of their butt, it's not making any sense.
Well,
You can't really validate everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear that kind of stuff, and how do you validate and not validate what their feelings are, that this is how they actually think,
yeah,
without validating
I have ways of just letting people know that I hear what they're saying. I may not agree with that,
right.
but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the second thing then we'll talk about is triage, because that really plays into what you're saying, Don. So,
need a triage.
so we're yeah, and that is valid. Let me just see if I want to skip past this. Okay, so let's just work through this so I don't miss anything. But we're going to camp out on triage when we end up on that. In fact, I'm sure Sharon could give us a good definition of triage. Anyway, I see you driving there, Sharon.
I don't know. Oh, I can talk. But
Yay.
I was having trouble with that. Yes, triage, of course, is just checking out what the most important acute needs are.
Yeah.
Right? Decide.
So you're assessing what is their actual need in that given situation. In the medical field, yeah, you're making a list. Okay, they got a boo-boo on their finger, but they got a gaping wound in their chest and a knife sticking out. Well, obviously, you're going to order priorities and address the most urgent needs, and tell grandma to kiss the boo-boo when you get home, but we'll take the knife out for you. So yeah, triage. I'm gonna jump down to that since we're on that subject, and then we'll end up in the other. So, MASH is a television show that's really old school. And you saw the idea of triage there all the time. And so doctors have to quickly in a MASH unit decide the most pressing needs and let the other stuff wait. And that's just like Sharon was saying, where you're doing that kind of assessment work. Now, relationship triage is quickly diagnosing what a person needs from you. If we fail to do this, we're going to be giving them medicine before we did a diagnosis. Happens all the time. We think the first thing they need is some advice, and I could think of a few conversations where a person got half a sentence out, and I assumed I knew the advice they needed, started dropping them on the advice on them, and it wasn't even the issue that came through. And I'm going, oh, you gas head, Mike. So some coaching will be done through coaching appointments. Some people will say, hey, will you be my mentor or coach or help me work through this issue? And so if you're working through an issue and it leads to action, SMART goals, and that's built into this process, then you're coaching someone. Other times it's done on the fly as God provides the opportunity. Triage will help you decide whether you should coach, whether you should listen, whether you should offer some other type of assistance to the person in front of you. And so here are 5 categories of triage for the coach. And if you do this first in any conversation you have, you'll better serve the people that you love and that God has brought to you. The first is a request for physical help. So someone comes in and they start complaining, oh, my car broke down, my tire's flat, I don't know how to fix it. And, then I busted my leg and whatnot. And so if you go into counselor mode and just say, oh, tell me about your feelings, you're probably not helping them as best as you could. You might want to either just say, hey, maybe I can help you with that tire, or hey, maybe I can call someone who knows about this stuff. They'll come and help you. And then if you need to talk more about it, sounds like you're having a hard time, but let's get your car rolling. That'll take some stress off of you. And then some people have a request for information. Hey, tell me, Pastor Mike, what's the best Bible to use? Well, that's a request for an English version that will be helpful to them. And then someone will say, hey, would you help me set back the odometer on my car? Well, that's an inappropriate interaction. And if you're on parole, you'll probably end up in the Gray Bar Hotel again if you get caught. And then someone comes in and they start talking like Yosemite Sam, and they're just mad, but they're redirecting that anger into your conversation, or they may be upset with you. And so that is one of the categories to kind of triage. Now, when someone is having a hissy fit, I know for guys, it takes 20 minutes approximately to dump the brain chemistry and the body chemistry so they can even hear and think straight. And there's a lot of guys who are running on adrenaline, and they've trained themselves to spark up in anger and rage because of shame or some other thing. Someone gets their anger hooked, goes into rage, you can't have a good conversation. So you can set an appointment and say, why don't you come back in a half hour? I'll meet you so-and-so, we'll have a conversation. And you're giving room for for them to dump that. Or maybe they just want someone to listen to them about their upset. I don't know. Sometimes the question is, you seem really upset and agitated. What's the best way I can help you?
Yeah.
Then it leads it on them, and usually it'll cause them to dig down into their brain and think a little bit. And if they can't come up with anything and they're still sputtering, then hey, let's come back to this in a half hour, or let me just sit you down here, get you a Coke, sit at the table, relax, come in and get warm, and I got a few things to do. And then you make sure you wait 20 minutes or more and have a conversation. And then the last one, which is most common if someone is coming to you for help, is that they start naming the things that are going on in their life and they're challenging, but they feel like they haven't been heard. No one cares. So they're looking for someone to understand and be involved. So they're not asking for information. Hey, here's 5 steps you can get out of your issue with. Here's 5 steps to fix you up. No, they're just asking you to be there. And so often, if I can't sort it out, I'll go back to the question, how can I best serve you right now? What do you need from me? And when I started doing that, I was shocked that they could actually tell me. Even if they're agitated, they could tell me.
So you're saying that is your go-to question?
Yes,
That is, when all else fails, or when in doubt,
that's the triage question. What do you need from me? How can I help you? And if you can't help them, let me see if I can find someone that can better help you than I could. But for now, let me pray for you or whatever seems appropriate. So triage, as you can see, is pretty important because often, especially in the helping professions and more particularly in churches, we think if we could talk them into a 4 spiritual laws and the prayer or something like that, it'll fix all their issues. And they may mouth it and whatnot, but their issue hasn't been, you haven't modeled the love of Christ to them yet. They don't understand who Jesus is until you model that and make Jesus look as good as he really is. How about that for a life mission? Huh? So what's most clearly expressed in these examples? Number 1 is, will you give me a ride home?
Huge, for physical health.
Yep. What day is the next meeting?
input.
Yep. You just don't know what it's like to be in my situation.
Anything.
Yeah. I guess I wonder if I should be doing something else with my life.
You are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Not a UTI. Yeah. This bricking is getting sickening. I'm sick and tired of doing all the jobs other people should be helping me with. Yeah, but it sounds like Yosemite Sam, it's probably anger. So let's just sit in this a little bit and think about how this might change the nature of some of our conversations. How might this be useful to you?
Thinking it through, listening to what they're saying. Making a point to try and listen to people for what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then trying to apply what kind of a scenario is this out of 5 and then bring back to what can we do to help?
Yeah. Yeah, because if you end up with a request for understanding or involvement, then it's a coaching opportunity. If it's anywhere else, it's something else. A request for physical help, you need a dude that knows how to change truck tires or whatever. Request for information, well, that could be pastoral, that could be legal, could be something else, but it's not coaching. You may coach them to go see that person, but you can't provide that.
Yeah.
Inappropriate, no, boundaries. Anger, what are you going to do about that other than give them a little time and just be there with them in it and don't try to talk them out of their anger. That's the worst thing you could do because then you're saying your anger isn't legitimate. Come around.
I'm not gonna lie, my sister, like, she's always had this attitude. And from my mom yelling at me as a young kid, I do not deal with conflict. Like, I will not yell, I will not scream, I do not deal with any of that. So growing up, my sister would raise her voice and try to get worked up at me, and I'd look at her, I'd be like, when you can talk like a normal human being, then we can talk.
Yeah.
Oh, did that ever get her worked up? Still to this day, she's learned that she just does not raise her voice to me, does not, like, it does not work.
Not
with
gonna
me.
hook you.
I will turn and I will walk away because I will not deal with it. And man, she gets mad when she tries, she's like chomping at the bit, trying to poke the bear, and she's like, I'm gonna get him. And no, bro,
Yeah,
don't do that no
You can
more.
relate to that. So,
But I do think it's funny. I do a lot of those things already. Like that is
Yeah.
one of, one of the things that I've heard.
intuitively, yeah.
I've heard that naturally I do just listen and I am able to pinpoint those, those types of needs and, where somebody has that need.
Yeah, it's not terribly complicated. Just pausing and letting your brain kind of sort out what they need from me is really all it takes. And then asking them, what do you need from me? That's a great go-to question.
That's just something I've never done. Like normally I don't ever ask anybody, like, I just assume I'm gonna come up with that answer. And usually I'm pretty good at coming up with the answer of what they need from me.
Mhm.
But like, I never thought like I can make this so much easier on myself.
Yes.
I just said, hey, what do you need from me? Like
And their
instead
answer
of
might be
me
surpri-
sitting here like wrapping my brain.
And here's the important piece for me, is I don't get to come up with the answer.
Yes,
Oh,
and what a relief.
Yeah.
What a total relief.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to tell them what they need. They get to come up with it. So coaching is all about letting them own the process, and you're coaching. You're not manipulating, moving, forcing, pressuring, suggesting. You're coaching. And we'll get into the coaching process, but it is such a relief. I know a lot of people who hate the idea of counseling and coming up with exercises and a pathway to a better life and thinking things through. It takes a great deal of investment and energy, at least for me. But coaching is on them, and you're there holding space for them while they work stuff out.
sometimes things happen when you don't know where they're thinking. And it's causing more problems because, when somebody I took to get a driver's license test and they failed it. And they were angry that they failed it, and I was like, it's okay, you can take it again, it'll happen, you got this, blah, blah, blah. Well, they didn't want to hear that, it just made them angrier.
Right.
And, weeks later, they were still weren't talking to me because she just wanted me to listen, I guess.
Yeah.
She just
So,
wanted to vent.
so the question, what do you need
so-
from me, may have really,
I guess that would have helped that
Yeah.
situation, and I'm like, wow, sometimes you just don't know what they're saying.
well, and what a relief, because then we don't have to figure it out.
Yeah,
So let's go through this listening for coaches, because the process starts with listening, but this is a different kind of listening. There's specific skills. And so the primary tool of a coach is his or her relationship with the coachee or person being coached. So if the relationship is the primary thing, that's your aim. Not to fix, not to get the information or whatnot, build a relationship, let the other stuff happen. And then active listening is called mirroring. And mirroring skills are a great tool for relationship building. So mirroring, it's a Rogerian term for those of you who have had intro to psych. Carl Rogers, not Mr. Rogers. And so this is the idea that you give back to the person what they said to you. So if someone starts to tell you about their day, you try to tell them in a summary what they just said to you. And the trick of the coach is to make it sound natural. So, Katie, you were talking something, I don't know if you want to have this recorded at all, but you were talking about some challenges that you were having. Is there anything you want to just a few sentences without, or maybe some other challenge today that somebody had? Some other topic, small thing.
I lost my attendance sheet today. And that was extremely distressing because what happens if I have to watch attendance?
So, yeah, so it really cost you to lose that attendance sheet.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so you see how I summarized that into a really short, statement. The heart of it is that it cost you something. Now you had to, would you say watch cameras?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
so you gotta go back and write it all down again about what happened, the transactions and stuff. And what a pain in the rump roast. So in just a clause, I was able to repeat back. And now that clues you in to say, hey, I get what you're saying. I'm there with you.
Validated.
This is like tickling my brain. I'm like, this is it, this is my brain.
Yep, yep,
This is complex reflection.
yes. Yes, kapow. So mirroring is basically you think of a mirror and the reflection gives back what it's in front of it. And so you're doing it, only it's a little smaller. And so you're summarizing that. And the idea is that you feel that connection. And then you understand. So your goal is understanding, and you don't rush into advice or physical help or whatnot to really get what's going on. So coaching's not about transmitting information. Now, for those of us who have a lot of information and love to transmit it, it's a challenge. You got to sit on a lot of stuff. Yeah, you got to hush. You got to sit on some things and set that to the side.
I can't do that.
And then coaching is about helping the coachee discover what God has already taught them or will teach them as they seek the Lord. We provide encouragement for the coachee to do what they already know. So the assumption has to be God will teach them, God will bring someone into their life, some other setting is available where they can go find out something. Someone comes to me and says, hey, I've been wanting to go to college for a long time, been thinking about it. And so we turn that into a SMART goal. And I say, well, who could you talk to? What have you tried already? Do you have any information from colleges around? What have you been thinking about? Notice I'm starting with what? That's open-ended. What are some things that have come to mind? And then you funnel it down and say, well, what's one step that you might be able to do by next week? So you see how we turned listening and we assumed they knew stuff. And then you narrow it down to say, what's one of those steps that you would take? So that's funneling into a SMART goal. And if you say by the next time we meet, now you've turned that into a SMART goal. It's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time driven. So the acronym SMART. And so there's a time by our next meeting. So it sets some accountability. That's pretty cool. And it feels natural. So you use their appointment with them as the accountability. And people might wait till the day before. Most people will.
Excuse me. Catherine is wondering if that Zoom meeting is happening. Is there a link for it and how long is it? Can you
Yes.
text her, send her a link?
Let me see, best way to do that. I wonder if she has a link to the ADP site. Well, let me just try that. All right, so timeout. I'm gonna try to invite someone in. Come on, you
Please,
can fill a face. Come on, come on.
Intermission.
Intermission. All right, I'm gonna hit the menopause. All right. So after that brief timeout, we will go back to
Fair, yeah.
our notes. And
Now, where do you have the notes posted? Are they on the website?
these notes that I'm writing
Yeah,
are
that
my
were-
teaching notes.
okay.
I don't have those posted.
Okay.
But this is actually a cut and paste from the class. So I just ordered it so that it would be a good introduction instead of scattering it around.
So basically, you're trying to give them carpal tunnel is what you say.
Carpfish tunnel.
There's research that says if
Um,
you write things down, you're more likely to recall them and do that. So perhaps this is just storing it in there.
Now one word is that active listening mirroring is a great tool to guide the coachee to discover what they already know or encourage them to grow. That's really the goal of coaching, is encouraging them to grow and use what they know and then apply it, and with a SMART goal. I typically get $40 an hour in a small town, cash, for coaching. It is a career, and I think of Emily Eichstead, who now is a professional and works at a university, and she started out by learning this program. And then through the program, she came to the conclusion that God was leading her to do coaching. And so it started with a kind of a beginner level coaching class, and now she's an expert. And maybe I can have her zoom in on one of these meetings and just chat with us a little bit. But you can get certified, but it's one of those professions that's pretty easy to get into, a lot easier than professional counseling. And I think you can accomplish quite a bit. So, yeah, so, yeah. And like,
Yeah.
and should I rethink? And if someone, yeah, and if someone asked me to coach their staff in a big church, it's $65 an hour. So that's some of the experience, and part of it is my resume. But the reason I'm sharing it is that it is a thing.
I would
And-
never,
Yeah, who would know?
I would never have known it was an actual job.
It's a real
a
job.
job in
Well, food
itself.
support specialists, they call them recovery coaches.
Yeah,
Let me tell you, when you find out how much they bill
Isn't-
for something like that.
Isn't
for
that
edit-
just a,
yeah.
basically like a accountability partner in a sense? I mean,
Good friend.
And they will be trained to use a process similar to this.
Uh-huh.
But it's a little more directive because it's a specific content loaded, material and outcomes and so forth. So
Well-
there's some coaching that's content free, where you just let them talk about anything, and some coaching is related to a specific challenge they're taking on, like sobriety. And so some of it, there's going to be content, generally what they're talking about, but you still let the person being coached guide where they're at and start from where they're at. So either way, it's similar, but you just know what you're going to talk about. All right, so let me pull up the model. I'm going to show you the model that this is a model that I developed. There are several models that go with acronyms. I kind of like when I develop a model to use an image, and this image is really old. And if I had someone who could help to make it look better, that would be great. But this is the model that I use. So I'm just kind of letting you know today what you're getting into. So I developed a model called the double funnel model. And
you showed it to us a couple weeks ago.
yeah. Yep, good memory. So
I wouldn't
It-
say that.
So, so it begins wide and narrows down. Now, my illustration isn't that good, but I think you can tell. It's like a cup or something. Now, the reason it's wide is that you're listening to the person being coached about a wide variety of subject matter. So that's if it's content free, the subject matter is going to be whatever's on their mind and you don't even know. So you start out with active listening and mirroring. And then you start to get a sense for what they are bringing up, and then look for repeated words or repeated themes. So if you're listening for 5 or 10 minutes and they're just trying to decide if they're going to share the real stuff, and they brought up their live-in boyfriend 4 times, that's probably the subject matter.
Start.
And so you could say, and this is more counseling, but it's fair to say, well, I've heard you mention your boyfriend 4 times now. Is there some issue there that you're trying to work out? And is, would you want me to kind of be with you in that or help you with that? And it may turn into more counseling if it is, and it's more deep and psychodynamic and childhood trauma, that's not coaching. So you'll be able to tell that pretty quick. But if they have to make a decision, the guy's been slapping me around for 20 years and I have a decision, but I'm afraid. Okay, now it's part coaching and in collaboration with a counselor. So anyway, you're listening to what they're saying, and then you funnel it down to a single issue. And I just demonstrated how to do that in a hard case. But normally it would be in the branches. It might be that we're providing some kind of accountability or mentoring, and someone says, "Man, I just I just don't know about my family. And every time I go back, there's such a struggle. And so the person who's mirroring might say, well, what I'm hearing you saying is that, living at your house again, may bring you down. It may cause you some problems. It may cause you some challenges. And then they'll elaborate as long as you're tracking with them and not reading into it.
Open dialogue.
Yeah. And then you're talking about one subject now going home after they're released. Now you widen it out. What are some solutions? What are some places you thought about going? Have you ever lived anywhere else that was good for you? What have you heard about? See what and how. How have you thought this through in the past? What have you tried before?
Instead of you just throwing a bunch of stuff at them, you allow them to
Yes. Then they're,
be the solution of their own problem.
you want them to be a man, to grow up and to own it, no excuses. And and so then you narrow it down. Okay, well, what's one step that you think you need to take before our next session? Or could you call Uncle Jethro to see if he could take you in? You've mentioned him. How would you find out? That's more open-ended. How would you find out if you could stay there? Well, then they would say, hey, well, I could call him or I could text him, whatever. Okay, so is that something that you want to do? Yeah. Okay, well then would it be a good goal that by the next time we met, you will have called Uncle Jethro? So you see how it just changed into a SMART goal immediately by asking that one question, ask them to take action. If they don't take action, it's not coaching. If there's no action step, it ain't coaching. And something may have happened. You may have built a relationship or whatnot, but if there's no action, there's no coaching. So it has to funnel to action. And if they don't want to take any steps forward, then they want to stay stuck. And they're in a loop of some kind, and that's a counseling issue, maybe. Or maybe a challenging mentor
A baseball
question. Yeah.
Oh, did I say that out loud?
This is a sidetrack, but there's a course that we have that's addiction and family systems. And sometimes family systems want the person to come be the funny drunk again because their parties aren't the same. So they correct them back. Oh, we miss you. Here, have a few beers. Oh, man, all the guys are asking about you. And they want them to fail because they need their funny drunk. It's part of a system. And systems all have functions and roles. And so they're missing a role and no one can fill that in. And so the system's compromised and they're not as fun. And then people are just complaining about it. No one breaks the fun of the party. So they're trying to correct the person to be back and take up their role again. So that's a whole interesting course right there to see how you play a particular role in identity in a system. But anyway, that's a sidetrack, but I figured it might be interesting.
That one was free, yeah?
Yeah. So here's the SMART goal. It's specific. A conversation or specific action such as, I will speak to Mary and ask her to forgive me. Or I will make and keep an appointment with the job center. It's not, well, I'll think about calling them and ponder it and maybe I'll do it. It's making a commitment, and we're not coaching. If you're playing at this, you're not at the right place. You can't play when you're trying to be in a residential center and you want to move forward. You can't play at this or just think you might want to do this. You're here because you want to change your life. And then measurable, falsifiable, measurable. I will treat people better is vague. Measurable is I will say thank you to every person I speak with this week. You see how you try to get it out of the vague and into measurable? Or I will talk to 3 people this week and apologize. So you want to really nail that down. And if you're coaching, make notes because this is really important. This is what they've asked you to hold them account to. Is it attainable? I will get every person I meet to kick drugs and alcohol within 1 week. Probably not. That's not attainable. Attainable is I will be available each time Bob calls me. Okay, well, that's realistic. That's attainable and relevant. My primary plan to kick drugs is to sign up for Earth News magazine. Okay, well, good for you, but that's not going to help you kick your addiction. Relevant, my immediate goal is to be drug and alcohol free for 30 days. That's relevant. Is it time oriented? I will take action on my goal before our meeting next week. I always use the meeting because it's built in and it's friendly. It's not holding them to, hey, you've got 30 days to do this. It's, hey, by the next time we meet, would that be enough time for you to call so-and-so? What question do you want me to ask you the next time you come here? I often use that. So they come up with the question, the accountability question. Okay, well, ask me if I called Uncle Bob or whatever. And so you see how you kind of put it on them, but they're kind of boxing themselves in in a good way.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Now, some people add another A to SMART goals, which stands for action oriented. Action instead of passive oriented.
So it was just a tip, you know. under-
Yeah. Yep. Smart. So this is the double funnel model that I came up with. Other people have excellent models. They're acronyms usually. And I just don't like acronyms because I'm fighting for the acronym when I'm in front of someone. And so it's easier to just see two funnels in my head and I'm going, okay, where am I? Okay, first funnel, one issue, brainstorm about it, action. Okay, I could do that. It's too easy to lose those acronyms. So anyway, I could share some of these other models with you if you want to at another time. So let me just see what I got for you. Okay. Here's the last one I'll share. And what I'm sharing with you is unique things that could use a little instruction. The listening skills, those kind of things, it's in the document and it's on the teaching website. So you'll be able to take that in and this isn't that complicated. It just takes repetition and locking then thinking about how you apply this. That's the best way to do that is to run through scenarios of talking with people and what you would say. But we're going to model a lot of this. And so next week and the week after, I'll have to have someone on Zoom and it could even be someone here in the next room or something so we don't get an echo where I can model what it's like to do the listening skills and then work it through. So whoever it is will have to come up with one issue. It's better if it's real, but it's not horribly embarrassing, but something that they're trying to make a decision on. So we'll do a lot of modeling and this class will have a lot of that.
Ooh, so it's playtime.
It's playtime, play therapy. With that said, how many of you are familiar with the disc profile? Not a slip disc.
Floppy
I know
disk?
Because I
Yes.
knew.
Yes.
I know him, but I don't know what that is.
Okay, so
there's that.
a disc
Disc.
Disc is a personality profile. Man, where is the plus button? There it is. That's so much easier. Okay, so DISC is a personality profile. And I wish I would have thought to pull this up. But essentially, if you got paper, draw a big plus on your paper.
Full page?
Fairly big, a third of a page.
Mhm. Middle of the page. This is
Yeah.
perfect.
Yep, big plus sign. And now on the top left square, right D, big letter D. And then next to it on top is I in the right top square. And then S is below that.
Below I?
Yep. And C is in the bottom left. So that's, yep, there we go. And so, so the D are temperaments that are dynamic and determined. So the D is someone who's dynamic and determined. And they might have some other dominating, some use dominating as a disc image. And so dominating is often used for that. That's someone who in an organization, you might have 3 of those in a big company or 10 of those in a company of 1,000. And they're usually people who want results. They're task oriented. They just want it done. They don't like to sink into all the details, but they want it done. They know enough details to know if it's working the right way. Those are doers. And usually they end up running a company, a big organization, starting things, that kind of thing. Often church planters are high Ds. Normally there's a split, like a 60D, 40I, or 60D, 40S. The I's are people who are relationship oriented. And so I's are people who really really are interested in relationships, but they also end up leading. So they lead through relationships. So if you know someone who's constantly connecting with you, wondering how you're doing, and then everyone kind of turns to them, hey, what do you think we should do today? They're leading, but they're doing it through relationships. The D is kind of saying how it's going to go. And if they're self-aware and learn some skills and have some love, they can work it out to come across better, but they can also be nasty. So Trump would be 100% D, no doubt about it. This is how it's doing. This is what's going to happen if you don't do it, dominating. The S is a relationship-oriented person. And so that is someone who generally doesn't like to be in a leadership role, the S. I's don't mind leadership. They don't seek it. It finds them because of the quality of their relationships. And they don't mind leading, but they're more interested in relationships. S's are all relationship. And 50 to 60% of people are wired this way. So if you have someone who's a bartender, a checkout person, a customer service person, an S is really good for that. Someone who attends to the needs of others, who seems to care about them. They don't want conflict. They hate conflict. And now on the bottom left, you have a C. C's are people who are detail oriented. Sometimes they'll drive you batty because they can't even talk to you till they get that last number perfect. Exactly how many brochures did we get? 51, 52, exactly. I have to have. And so they're so caught up on numbers, but someone has to be. Someone's got to be an accountant. Thank God someone's wired that way. I don't want to be. I know the general theory of accounting. I probably could fill in, but it would start driving me nuts.
That's Doris.
Well, it is. I thought of her too. She's wired as a C. And so I had one person who was wired this way, Leslie in Hayward, and she was a church secretary. And when she wrote a report for the church yearly, every single number to a penny was right, and you could count on her. You want information, go to Leslie, and you can count on her. And now sometimes they can not celebrate with you because all they're looking for is the number. So you say, hey, 50 people came. Well, was it 51? Was it 53? And they're not celebrating with you because they've got to get that number. That's what's in their mind. Someone has to be wired that way, thank God. And it's not me. But someone is, it's a blessing. And they can use that to the glory of God. So accountants, teachers, scientists, computer hackers, whatever. Now, if you look at the plus sign, the people on the left, the D and C, are more task oriented. And so you could even write sideways. And the people on the right, the I and the S, are more relationship or people oriented.
Hey, question.
Yes,
How are those letters related to anything?
because everyone has a temperament. I'm glad you asked that. Because everyone has a temperament, and your temperament will affect the way you coach people.
But
So,
why is a C somebody who's more task oriented? Like that doesn't start with C.
I can't remember what the acronym's for. I don't
Oh,
remember.
okay.
So he doesn't like acronyms.
Yeah, exactly. I could come up with
I'm
it.
like, what does the S
Yeah.
mean? I have no idea.
Off the cuff.
Something that starts with S.
I'm doing this off the cuff, so I'm not even looking at anything I wrote. Normally, I would have a paper queued up, but I'm just doing it off the cuff. But at least I know the concepts enough to do this. So,
Yeah.
question, can't answer. That was a request for information.
It was.
So the people on top, the D and I's, will end up in leadership. The D's will demand respect. And if they're honorable people, they will earn respect. They'll end up in leadership, and they'll have an urge to lead because they want it to be excellent. They want things to be good. The I's will end up like I think of some nurses end up managing a team. What's that called?
News managers?
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Wow.
How amazing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay.
So some of them end up in that because they,
I have an answer to Sharon's question.
oh yeah,
Actually, ChatGPT does. D
Perfect.
is dominance,
D is dominant,
I is influence,
I is influence, that's how they lead.
S is steadiness,
Steadiness,
C is conscientiousness or compliance, depending on the version.
yeah, I like conscientiousness because compliance doesn't describe Leslie or others who want answers and will get it. But generally, they don't want to lead and they'll tell you, but they're all sparky about getting their numbers from them. So a C will come up to me after a sermon and ask me, "Hey, how did people seem to respond?" A C will say, "How many communion cups were left over?
Yeah.
Do I need to order more?" So that gives me the grace to just think of how they're wired, but that will really affect the way we coach. So I'm sharing this because I do have assessments you could take that would help you, and they're free assessments. I could get you a link. We do have this in the leadership class, so if you want to do this ahead of time, you can, and I could send you a link. But coaches need both grace givers and truth tellers. Grace giving is an art of empowering and encouraging someone in their ministry or their station in life. Truth telling is the art of informing someone about objective realities. Many are not good at both grace giving and truth telling, and we often see them as mutually exclusive. So if you're wired as a D or sometimes a C, you have no problem throwing out the numbers, the facts, the truth. If you're more interested in the relationship, you might be afraid to speak up because the relationship means so much to you. You might have a harder time coaching. And then you've got to think about who you're coaching and what their type is. Or if you just start with yourself, the rest kind of sorts itself out with the coaching. And so the solution is look to Jesus as the perfect synthesis of grace and truth. And there are times when I've needed to speak a hard truth to someone, and I'll pray for the courage of Jesus to come out of me because I don't feel like taking a loss, and I know it may cost me something to speak up and say it straight. And often I've been called to do that. Sometimes I will see someone as an opponent. God, help me to see what you see. Give me your grace and your love for them before I go and coach them. Otherwise, they'll read it from me that I don't really care, even though my words are saying one thing, So anyway, there's some, this is on the teaching website, by the way, this particular one here. And so you can go back to that. Yep, look for the slip disc. And it gives you a little bit more information. But hopefully, yeah, here we are. In this in the third page of this, it wasn't coming up. They show that Paul was about power and, you know, the way he wrote, he demanded, you know, not I, but the Lord says, and then not the Lord, but I say. And he was very clear and wanted things done a certain way. Peter was more persuasive. Abraham was relationship driven, according to the person who made this acronym. It may not fit perfectly. Moses was about rules. He wrote a few of them, and process.
Just a couple.
Yeah. And then there's personality types related to biblical character, so you can read that for yourself. But I just wanted to kind of talk that through with you in person before you looked at that, because sometimes it's a little harder to gain a brand new concept. And with that, I think we will pick it up next time. Any questions before we go?
Do we have homework?
Look through and become very familiar with the material.
Which material? I missed that part, the beginning.
So you're looking on the second ADP button on the teaching website, and it's
Okay.
going to be ministry coaching.
Mhm.
And it's going to start out with listening skills and mirroring or active listening.
Oh,
and then
those
it goes
pages
in-
that I saw.
Yep. And then it goes into a coaching model where there's a double funnel. And so really get familiar with that. And then next week, we're going to model some of that stuff in person and kind of go through the whole sequence together. So this, yes,
In-person skill building.
kapow.
I'm not about.
All right, good question.
All right, love you guys.
All right, love you too.
Bye, Ryan.
Bye.
And thanks, Sharon. Good to see your windshield.
Yeah. Thank you.
He's a man.
All right, we'll catch you later.
Okay, bye.
I want to talk to him